Bank details on 0800 328 2020 and pay for your TV licence by direct debit.
This is BBC One. Now the BBC News with George Alagaya.
Good afternoon. The hijackers of an Indian Airlines plane have extended the deadline for their demands to be met after the Indian government agreed to send a negotiating team. Earlier, the hijackers, who want Kashmiri separatists freed from Indian jails, had threatened to start killing the 155 passengers still on board the plane in the Afghan city of Kandahar. A plane carrying the team of negotiators is now on its way to Afghanistan from the Indian capital, Delhi.
Collected by doctors after being held captive inside the Indian Airlines aircraft, this man, a diabetic, was freed so he could receive hospital treatment. It was a gesture from a group of hijackers who are now showing signs of frustration. The UN representative who has spoken to them said it was difficult to predict their next move.
The hijackers are trying to keep options open in terms of staying on the ground or moving out. They have asked the plane to be ready.
Extra blankets, food and water have been taken on board the aircraft, but conditions inside are said to be poor. The BBC correspondent in the area says over recent hours the situation at the airport has grown increasingly tense.
I'm just near the airport, about 300 metres away from the plane. I can see armed Taliban fighters surrounding it. The Taliban have said that they will storm it if the hijackers start killing anyone on board.
The anguish of the relatives of those on board the hijacked aircraft has now turned to anger. They clashed with riot police outside the Civil Aviation Authority building in Delhi. They could not hide their frustration at what they see to be a lack of action by the Indian government.
Is it the matter of playing politics here when people's lives are involved?
There is now enormous pressure on the Indian government to bring an end to the crisis without further bloodshed. The aircraft with a negotiating team on board left India, but was forced to turn back with mechanical problems. It's now on its way again.
Russian forces are meeting stiff resistance to their assault on the Chechen capital, Grozny. The Chechen president has said the capital will be defended until the end. The Chechen rebels inside Grozny have laid minefields which are hampering the Russian advance.
The Russian forces are having to fight for every little bit of Grozny. Military sources admit the all-out assault on the Chechen capital is proving extremely difficult. Heavy shelling is supposed to dislodge the rebels, but the Chechens had months to prepare for the Russian attack, and they seem to have made good use of the time. Most of the approaches to the city have been mined. Removing the devices from the path of the Russian advance is tricky, slowing down the pace of the army's assault. More Russian reinforcements are being brought in all the time, but the soldiers are meeting stiff pockets of resistance. Airstrikes are being called in frequently to provide support. Inside Grozny, as many as 40,000 civilians are still trapped amidst the bomb-damaged buildings and all the fighting. There now seems to be no chance of them being able to leave before the battle is finished. The Chechen rebels who are demanding independence have no intention of surrendering. They're renowned as street fighters, a skill the Russian soldiers lack, and one which could prove crucial during this protracted bout of urban warfare. The Russian troops had hoped to take control of Grozny by New Year's Day, an important holiday in Russia which is supposed to symbolize the idea of a fresh start. But a victory by then now looks highly unlikely.
Police believe a 15-year-old girl from Lanarkshire may have died as a result of drugs. The body of Kerry-Ann Kirk was found at a friend's house in Coatbridge yesterday. 6 others have died in drug-related incidents since Christmas Eve in the Strathclyde police area. Protesters against hunting with dogs are out in force today. It's one of the most important days in the hunting calendar, with over 300 meets across the country. Supporters have said they'll carry on regardless of the demonstrations.
Once again, the town of Malden in Essex has been the focal point for the increasingly bitter divisions between pro and anti-hunt supporters. This morning, the Essex Farmers and Union Foxhound Hunt made its way through the centre to a chorus of abuse from one side and cheers from the other. The huntsmen themselves are determined that their sport will survive into the next millennium.
This is a country ruled by democracy, not mob rule with people shouting and behaving like that. Look at the genuine Malden people. They're cheerful, they're happy, they're pleased to see us.
But their opponents maintain that hunting is barbaric and should be banned.
Count the horses, count the dogs, count the people, and they're after one little fella like this. You know, it's just disgusting.
Look at the dogs!
The protests at these events have become almost as much a part of the tradition as the hunts themselves. But this year the stakes are higher than they've ever been. The government recently announced an independent inquiry into hunting with dogs, while Ken Livingstone's private members' bill is attempting to ban the practice altogether. The coming months will see an increase in hostilities.
A 32-year-old woman and her 4-year-old son are still in hospital after the police car in which they were travelling was involved in a crash in County Durham yesterday. The boy's twin brother and his 2-year-old sister died. There's an investigation into the cause of the accident, which happened as the family was being taken to a refuge for women. The surviving boy suffered serious head injuries and is said to be in a critical condition. 7 British holidaymakers are still in hospital in Austria after a bus crash yesterday. A coach carrying a party of tourists travelling with Shearing's Holidays went off the road in heavy snow near the village of Innervillegraten in the East Tyrol. One of the injured is in a serious condition. The record level of spending in the run-up to Christmas is expected to slow down in the next few days, making the January sales a disappointment for shopkeepers. According to a survey, many people have spent their limit for Christmas. Even so, some shoppers in London still queue to pick the best bargains, and stores are hoping that they'll overcome the predicted millennium hangover. England's cricketers are putting up a strong performance in the 3rd test against South Africa in Durban. Nasser Hussain has made a century and Alex Stewart looked like doing the same until he was out on 95. A few minutes ago the score was 336 for 5.
After the tedium of yesterday, when England were heavily criticised for slow scoring, what the Durban crowd needed was some festive fare. And the home supporters were soon celebrating another wicket when Darren Maddy fell to Alan Donald in only the 2nd over of the day. But it was to transform the tempo of the England innings, with Alex Stewart attacking from the outset. Nasser Hussain joined in the more positive approach, punishing any deliveries offline. Together, Stewart and Hussain took on the South African bowlers in a way not seen during this series, scoring at 4 runs and over. Hussain's determination was rewarded with his first century as England captain, reached rather fortunately with his 11th boundary and a stay at the crease approaching 8 hours. Time for celebrations in the dressing room and among the travelling supporters. Stewart seemed certain to follow to 3 figures, but he was 5 runs short when he fell LBW to Nanty Hayward. A short time ago, England lost Chris Adams, but are still heading towards a commanding total.
That's it. I'll be back with more news at 5 o'clock.
Good afternoon. If you live in South Wales and Southern England, you might want to grab pen and paper because I'm going to give you that flood line number once again. And the reason, there's more wet weather heading in off the Atlantic. Now you can see this great mass of cloud streaking in. That's a developing area of low pressure. It's going to bring some rain with it to southern parts of Britain. Some of that rain is likely to be heavy. There could even be some sleet and snow, and already some heavy rain showing up on our West Country radar. That wet weather will work its way along the channel through the rest of today, and as I said before, there could well be some snow over high ground, perhaps a bit of sleetiness getting down to low levels for a time as well. Well, that floodline number again, particularly for anybody in South Wales or Southern England where we have got rivers on red alert or flood alert, the number you need is 0845 988 1188, and that will give you the latest information on the likelihood of flooding. As you can see, we've got some echoes elsewhere on the radar, mainly up to the northwest. These are showers being driven in by quite a brisk northwesterly wind, and those showers are falling as sleet and snow. You can see that temperatures are going to make it feel pretty cold. Tonight, though, that wet weather in the south should have moved out of the way. We'll keep those wintry showers going in northern and western areas, but elsewhere, skies will clear, and it's going to be another frosty night. And of course, with the rain, the sleet, the snow, the showers, it's likely to be icy as well. And then, as far as tomorrow's concerned, well, it's more of those wintry showers running across the United Kingdom on a rather chilly northwest wind. Bye-bye.
Past natural history nights have surveyed the animal kingdom in all its variety, but this time we're surveying different continents.
With me will be some of the great filmmakers of the world whose films you'll be looking at and who know what it's like to travel and work in these very extreme conditions. One of the great developments in filmmaking over the past 20 years or so has been the elaboration and perfection of time-lapse photography, speeding things up so that you can see things that the human eye has never seen before. And nearly always they are amazingly beautiful. Natural History Night, New Year's Day on BBC Two.
The New Year issue of Radio Times has features and previews of forthcoming BBC programmes, together with listings for all major television channels.
Now on BBC One, North West Today with Carol Lowe.
Good afternoon. The Moors murderer Ian Brady is being treated in hospital after collapsing at Ashworth Top Security Hospital in Maghull in the early hours of this morning. The 61-year-old has been refusing food for almost 3 months. Sally Williams reports.
Ian Brady was given 3 life sentences in 1966 for torturing and killing 3 children. He's been held at Ashworth High Security Hospital in Maghull, where he began a hunger strike on September the 30th as a protest at having to move wards. Staff at the hospital began feeding him nourishing liquids via a tube when his condition deteriorated a month later. In the early hours of this morning, he collapsed and was rushed to Fazakerley Hospital, where he is undergoing tests. His condition is not said to be life-threatening, and Merseyside police say measures are underway to ensure the safety of the public, staff and Brady himself during his stay. The 61-year-old, who has said he would rather die than rot slowly in prison, is considering taking legal action over the decision to force-feed him.
9 people holidaying with the Greater Manchester travel firm are still being treated for whiplash after their coach overturned on a mountain pass in Austria. They were among a party of tourists on an excursion with the Wigan-based company Shearings Holidays. The accident happened 250 miles southwest of Vienna. The police have carried out an investigation and believe it may have been caused by black ice. Detectives in Greater Manchester have named a man who was shot dead in the early hours of Boxing Day. 27-year-old Simon Brown was shot at a party at the Manchester Black Community Trust in Cheetham Hill yesterday. Mr. Brown, who came from South Manchester, died despite attempts by paramedics to save him. Police are appealing for information in helping to find his killer. Motorists are being warned to avoid the area around the Trafford Centre. The start of the sales has led to heavy congestion with 2-mile tailbacks over the Barton Bridge and junctions 9 and 10 on the M60. Police say the car park is now full and people wishing to visit the centre can expect long delays. Those drivers who aren't visiting the centre should avoid the area altogether. Sport, and Manchester United manager Alex Ferguson has hit out at the poor condition of the Old Trafford pitch. His comments followed yesterday's league game against Bradford City. United won 4-0, but the manager said the pitch relayed 4 times in the last 19 months was terrible. The service was relayed 2 months ago, but has been badly affected by heavy rain in November and December. The weather, wintry showers across the region today, and it will be cold this evening.
If you're feeling anything but festive this season, give Careline a call on 0845 606 5678. The lines are open now.
Nelson Mandela is building his dream house in the village where he grew up.
But what he doesn't know is we're in beautiful South Africa.
To give his garden the ground force treatment.
His wife's in on it.
When he was in prison, he tried to have a garden.
His friends are in on it. From childhood, he was interested in gardening.
And we've got to come up with a garden fit for one of the greatest leaders of the 20th century.
Ground Force Mandela Special goes to South Africa, Sunday at 8:15 on BBC One.
Paddling. A time like this.
Christmas in the square, and what's all this fuss about the ownership of the Vic? Catch up with the EastEnders at 2:15. First on BBC One, things are going missing at a posh hotel, but this is no ordinary thief. The network premiere of Total Chaos when Dunstan checks in.